Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for the very first episode of the long-awaited Hakuouki Kyoto Winds release. For anyone who doesn't know, Kyoto Winds is the original Hakuouki game Demon of the Fleeting Blossom, but with 6 new dateable characters added. 3 characters that were in the original game but not dateable, and 3 completely new characters added to the game. It does not, however, include the Zuisoroku fan disco extra scenes that had been added to the PS3 version of the game. I had already read Demon of the Fleeting Blossom in its entirety here on the Quickies channel. If you don't want to wait and you would like to go through that, you may. I'll link the list. And for those of you who have already read, watched, or played the original game, or the PS3 version, and don't really want to hear the same stuff over again, here's what I'm going to do. Now, I don't have the best memory, so I may not be totally accurate with this. I'm going to go ahead and reread the common route material starting from the beginning as I'm playing through my first route, just like with any other game I play. But for those of you who only want to see new material and don't wish to hear the same old material again, I will do my best to mark the videos that have new material by putting 2 asterisk marks on the thumbnails, and in the description I'll mark the times of the new clip. Or at least I'll try to, and we'll see how that works out. So since I'm not terribly keen about spending tons and tons of time rereading, I'm going to spend a lot of time getting through the common route again as quickly as possible, so I'm going to put out as many videos as possible till I can actually get on Sanen's route, because he's the one I'm doing first. Then I'll get back to my usual 1 episode a day. It's just that because of the whole skip function thing, the lack of free time in my life, I can only read things when I'm reading them to you all, and I'm super anxious to get into the new material in this game, so I really don't want to be sitting here for 2 weeks or more reading old stuff over again and, holding back myself from the new materials that I want to read right now. I mean, even putting out the videos as fast as I'm going to be, or going to be trying to be, it's still going to be a couple more days before I get into the new material, whereas if I was reading it by myself, I'd be like, 2 days, and I'd be halfway through the game already. So you may be seeing a lot of Kyoto Winds videos for the first 2 weeks or so, until I catch up to where I want to be. But don't expect that to keep up because I am going to be killing myself doing this. Also, I won't be rereading the original routes, I don't think, except for perhaps Kazuma, because I heard that he might have a lot more scenes than he did in the original, because his original route was super short in Demon of the Fleeting Blossom, but I believe the extra materials for everyone else is pretty much the interactions between them and the newly added characters, which will be shown in the routes of the new characters. So yeah, like I said again, if you want to hear the original routes or if you want to get a head start on the common route events, you can listen to my Demon of the Fleeting Blossom videos, which will be linked. And also, if you want to hear the extra fluff scenes that aren't in Kyoto Winds, then you can watch my Hakuoki Zuisoroku playlist. Alright, so sorry for that long preface, but I hope that'll help some people who might be wanting to skip through some things they've been through before. Alright, so like I said, I'll be making choices for Sanen, but we're starting a new game here. And of course we are sticking with the default name, Chizuru Yukimura. Prologue, January 1864. So, this is Kyoto. It was awfully impressive, no denying it. Even simple hellos between people passing in the street seemed warm and friendly. They nodded and smiled to one another, as if family and not strangers out on errands. Still, there was something else as well. Something making the city feel strangely cold. Almost as though there was a great invisible wall, shutting out anyone wandering from the country. I'm not sure if I belong here. No, that's all in my head. I walked quite some distance to reach Kyoto, and both my mind and body were exhausted. Even so, tiredness was no reason to meander and feel sorry for myself. I couldn't afford to. Excuse me. I hesitantly stopped the passerby. I'm sorry, I seem to be a bit lost. Could you... What am I supposed to do now? I guess they didn't really help me much. I was lost again, but in a different sort of way. I sighed and looked up at the darkening sky. The sun was beginning to set. People I'd spoken to showed me no unkindness, and they'd given me directions I'd needed, but was now really the best time to leave the city? Learning the person I'd hoped to visit had left town caused hope to seep from my crumbling resolve. The only person besides father I could rely on in the city was Dr. Matsumoto. Dr. Matsumoto was a doctor serving the shogunate. I had never met him myself, but my father put a great deal of trust in the man. He had told me that if I ran into any trouble in his absence, I was to contact Dr. Matsumoto. Unfortunately, Dr. Matsumoto was out on business and would not return for some time. Was I too hasty? Perhaps I should have waited. It was indeed rude to visit without warning, which is why I had to send a letter prior to my arrival. But it seems he had left before reading my letter. Perhaps I thought I should have waited for a reply before traveling to an unfamiliar city. Too late for that now. But I can no longer spend time waiting idly for news.
Chizuru.
Is something wrong, Father? He paused for a moment and looked at me. I love how it's got that grainy, old-fashioned film look.
It seems I must depart for the city of Kyoto.
Is it for business again? He'd left the house often during that period, sometimes for days at a time. How long will you be gone?
I'm afraid I cannot say. A month, perhaps? Maybe 2?
Oh, there was no hiding my disappointment. Nonetheless, I wasn't a child anymore. I couldn't beg him not to go, or some other foolishness. Yes, I'd be lonely, but I was much more worried for him. Please, Father, be careful. They say that the city of Kyoto is dangerous. He only smiled and nodded.
You needn't fret. I will be sure to send you letters often, so that you will have no need to worry.
Okay, you promise? Father kept his promise. A new letter arrived so often I scarcely had the time to respond before another would arrive. He told me that he worried about me being home all by myself. Then the letter stopped. A whole month passed with no word. Father, they say Kyoto is full of ronin. It's not a safe place. Usually a samurai is paid by their house, but ronin who report to no house often rob people in order to make ends meet. They're nothing more than violent criminals who hide behind the image of the samurai. Such is the state of the city of Kyoto, the city of ronin. Small wonder, then, that I worried for my father. My mind would concoct horrible possibilities, and I often found myself depressed and tense. First, I suppose I need to find a place to stay. Lost in thought, I didn't notice nightfall descend. If I was honest with myself, I hadn't the faintest idea how long searching for him would take. I bought a negligible sum of money with me, enough to last me a month if used wisely. Finding father in this window of time was a must. Otherwise, I would have to depend on Dr. Matsumoto returning in this time, or else I'd be forced to return home without a word. Or you could sleep on the streets for a while. Well, at any rate, I should try and be as frugal as possible. I lengthened my stride and set off on my path. Fortunately for me, men's clothing assisted with keeping a quicker pace than women's. Kyoto presented many dangers to a young girl hoping to explore the city without direction. My disguise, such as it was, proved successful, and I'd safely made it all the way to Kyoto. Such success went to my head and led me to believe I could explore Kyoto as I pleased. But Kyoto was not a safe place. I should have remembered that. Instead, I had somehow convinced myself that the city's hidden dangers didn't apply to me.
Hey, kid!
I was about to discover otherwise. I spun around. In the street in front of me were 3 ronin. Can I help you? I did my best to keep my voice calm, reaching nonchalantly for my kodachi. My father encouraged me to take sword lessons. I'd kept with them, and I did rather well. I was confident enough in defending myself. However, perhaps my overconfidence in myself is what served the situation at hand to me. I'd messed up and let my guard down. My fault. There was a chance I could take them on, but there were 3 of them, and 1 of me.
Pretty nice blade you got there, kid.
Only then did I realize they were far more interested in my sword than they were in me.
Looks like a bit much for a pup like this, right?
Hey, give it here. We'll put it to good use.
But this is... The sword wasn't just some blade I'd picked up. It was a family heirloom spanning generations. There was no way I could give it to the Ronin. Though, I had a feeling they wouldn't understand. In such a situation, the best decision was undoubtedly to retreat. Run for it! I turned and ran as fast as my legs could.
Hey, get back here, you little bastard!
No way! Gosh, they sure don't give up easily, do they? I felt like I'd been running for quite a while, but I could still hear the Ronin cursing loudly. I ducked into an alley, flattening against the wall. Oh, this is cool! There's way more animated stuff in this than the original and even the PS3 version. The little sliding of things and, the snow falling's really nice and all. After deciding they weren't too close, I crept further into the alley. Someone left a couple sheets of wood leaning against one of the houses, a perfect hiding spot. What luck, I thought, kneeling down under them. This is my way to escape this mess. Huh? I was listening for sounds intently. A suspicious calm entered my mind. I'd expected to hear the Ronin yelling to each other, looking for me, but... Seconds turned into minutes. I heard nothing. I was about to sneak out and have a look when...
Yeah!
What? My plan to investigate was immediately halted. Remaining silent and hidden was more important. Sounds wise to me. Still.
Damn you.
What is this? Why won't you die? Damn it. We gotta get out of here.
It was then that true fear began to set in. There was something dangerous out there. Something quite possibly lethal. My imagination conjured up no shortage of gruesome theories. Even so, I could feel an itch of curiosity. Which killed the cat? I wanted to know what was out there. Carefully, I peeked around the corner's edge. Not wise, Chizuru. The cold reflection of moonlight upon a blade glared at me, and my eyes followed it to the arm that held it, clad in a coat of light blue. Had this person saved me? But no slower than it appeared, my hope vanished.
Help!
I heard the Ronin stumbling to beg for his life. The person in the blue coat said nothing, just stepped forward, his sword raised.
Ah!
A high, screeching laugh cut the man's scream. That's new, all this blood splatter. The blade fell through the air like a butcher's knife, rather than a sword. No skill, just death. The scream turned wet, caught, and disappeared like air leaving half-empty bellows. My eyes went wide. I had just witnessed a murder. Any strength I'd received vanished quickly. My legs gave way and I crumpled to the ground. My eyes widened like busted shells. He died with the first blow, but as I watched, the blades fell, carving lines into the corpses. The soft slip of a blade through flesh, the silent creep of blood across the ground. I felt nothing from them but madness. Their only desire was raw, animalistic violence. Whatever they were, it wasn't human. They were broken. I could feel my throat clench tightly, and a warm, dark smell brushed against my face. I slowly recognized the coppery tang of blood. An icy bolt of fear ran down my spine, crawling into my limbs and freezing me in place. I was terrified. What was I going to do? What could I do? You have to run, Chizuru. I forced my jaw open and drew a ragged breath. This was the only chance I'd get. I had to... Ah! My body, still numb from fear, was unresponsive. I lurched sideways against the stack of wood, and with a rough clatter it collapsed. Oh, darn it. I think if she had been level-headed enough, she should have gone back into her hiding place. Oh, geez. Oh, they're doing a much better job with this version, making it much, much creepier. The creatures turned, coats drenched in blood. Their eyes locked with mine and bore into me. Hideous grins split their inhuman faces, shaking with excitement at prey to slaughter. I had to run. I couldn't die yet, but my legs refused to move. Their hideous cackling laughter echoed. I was going to die. My body was frozen with terror. I couldn't even scream. This was it. This was the end. What? I watched them raise their bloody swords, the moon glinting off the metal. Then there was a flash of light and the soft splash of blood. I could feel it, warm and sticky. Bile began to rise in my throat, but before disgust took hold, I heard a voice.
Really?
The words suggested disappointment, but the voice sounded happy.
And here I was, planning to take care of them all. Can't you have picked another day to work fast, Saito?
As he spoke, the strange man smiled, almost as if he were enjoying himself, which he probably is, gorgeous and deadly as the man may be.
I only did my job. Unlike you, I take no pleasure in battle.
Well, that's not a very nice thing to say.
But if it's the truth... He laughed.
You don't even bother denying it.
The man called Saito sighed with the air of a long-suffering companion and looked at me.
Maybe. Well, if you just sat back and let them kill the kid, you could have saved us some trouble.
His tone was light, but it confirmed my fears. I may have escaped the schemes of the Ronin, but I was ensnared by something much darker.
Perhaps that decision is not ours to make.
Huh? Out of the frying pan into the fire. Then, who was in charge of these two? Their conversation led me to believe they were part of an organization. As I thought about it, I recalled hearing about men with blue coats. Ah! My thoughts were interrupted by a dark shape sliding into view. Oh. I swallowed hard. The moonlight shone off his smooth, dark hair. For reasons I couldn't fathom, in that moment the light of his hair made me think of the wistfulness of flower petals. It was almost as if the cherry trees were blooming out of season.
Luck is not your friend tonight.
His voice was cold and quiet, like a blade of ice. Blue-white moonlight lit his slender face and shone from the blade pointed at my chest. But it wasn't the sword making my breath catch. It was his eyes. They were fierce and hard. But somewhere behind them, I could catch a glimpse of something else. There could be no doubt that he was prepared to kill me, and yet he looked troubled. Not kindness, but perhaps mercy?
Run, and I will kill you. Do you understand?
I nodded. There was no doubt he meant every word he said. He stared at me for a moment, then grimaced, and put his sword away, sighing. What? I was too surprised to stop myself from speaking, and it quickly became apparent that I wasn't the only one.
What? Wait, Hijikata, are you sure about this? This kid saw everything. That can't be good.
As he spoke to the man he called Hijikata, his eyes narrowed. The man called Hijikata frowned back at him.
Shut up. If you keep that up, you know what we're going to have to do.
It was clear enough that what I'd seen was something they wanted to keep hidden. The more they said, the more I got it, and it was clear none of us wanted such a thing.
Well, I really think it's going to come back to bite us in the ass if we let this kid go.
The way he looked at me made me feel as if he'd read my mind.
So we should just kill people now? No. I'll see what to do with this kid when we get back. I agree with the commander. If we remain here, we're unlikely to be seen. Again.
Then he looked down at the creature he'd killed, as though he'd forgotten the whole ordeal.
If they have this sort of reaction to blood, then they don't seem like they'd be very practical. Damn.
He peered down at the corpse, his face an emotionless mask. When he looked back up at his companions, however, his eyes narrowed.
As for you two, drop the Hijikata and Commander Act. Keep a low profile.
What? Come on, you can't be serious. Aren't our blues a big enough giveaway?
Yeah, pretty much. He was right. Even I had heard stories about a gang of cruel men in blue coats who cut people down in the streets, but I didn't know how to confront the dilemma of pretending I didn't see any of these horrors. My mind swirled through a pool of worries and thoughts, almost as if I was being drawn into their world. A world in which there was nothing strange in carrying on a normal conversation in the dead of night with corpses for company.
What shall we do with the bodies, then? There doesn't seem to be any physical signs.
Hijikata thought for a moment before he spoke.
Just take their blues. Yamazaki can deal with the rest. As you wish.
Another man cut down to the streets, huh? Doing a great job, aren't we?
He gave a derisive bark of laughter.
So long as we keep our mouths shut, I don't think anyone will know we were here.
He looked directly at me, and I got the distinct feeling his words weren't for his companions. It was common for people to be murdered in Kyoto. It was a dangerous city, after all. I knew that, of course. But to see it happen? That was something else entirely. If death was such an easy thing in Kyoto, I thought, then the city itself must surely be mad.
Ah, yes. We did save you, didn't we?
Yes, so now you're responsible for me. Huh? I didn't realize right away he was speaking to me. When I did, my eyes went wide. What do you mean you saved me? Well, he did have a point. Despite their threats, they saved my life. I stood up steadily as I could manage, brushed some dirt off my clothes, and bowed. Thank you very much. I apologize for not thanking you earlier. There was so much going on, I was a little confused. I glanced up at them tentatively. The man called Hajime also looked confused. His eyes were wide, and he had an expression I couldn't place. Just the looks they're both giving us, sorry. Hijikata looked as though he'd taken a bite out of something sour, which is a look you'll see a lot on him. I sighed deeply before continuing. I know it seems weird to say that, but he told me I should say thanks, so I looked up. Saito and Hijikata both stared pointedly at anything but me, and the third man was shaking with laughter.
Oh, man. Oh, my apologies. I certainly did tell you to, didn't I?
He broke out in laughter again, so much that he was forced to wipe a few tears from his eyes as he straightened up.
Well, you're welcome. I'm Soji Okita. Nice to meet a kid who knows how to be polite.
Thank you for helping me. Not quite sure what else to do, I bowed again.
The only one you should be thanking for saving you is Hajime Saito over there, and this bossy guy here is...
What the hell do you think you're doing, Okita? Sir, I read your concerns, but we must move.
Whatever mirth was inspired was gone. The man called Saito now spoke with a quiet urgency. The man named Okita grabbed hold of my wrist, smiled, and led us down the street. His grip was a touch too tight to be friendly, his fingers like iron cables around my arm. There was no question about my situation. I quickly picked up the notion that if I were to run, I would be killed instantly. My life was in the hands of these strange men. I set my jaw and stood up as straight as I could. My eyes crept up from the blood-stained coat and met Saito's gaze.
It would be best if you prepared for the worst. I doubt this will end well for you.
Well, that's encouraging. His words were like a dagger in my stomach. What was going to happen to me? Was I going to die? As we walked through the bleak Kyoto night, I felt terror crawl its way up my spine once again. The cause of my horror wasn't the gruesome end that awaited me, but something else entirely. I spoke with these men and watched them speak, standing next to a warm corpse soaked in blood. That I had done such a thing terrified me in an altogether different way. Perhaps this is what it was like to go mad. Chapter 1, January 1864. Oh, it seems like those transition screens are random, I think. It's all blurry. Was it morning? What happened to me? I attempted to recollect myself. Yes. Right. All at once, the events of the previous night rushed back to me. This isn't my room. My limbs were snugly bound in tight knots, so all I could do was wriggle around in bed, twisting the blankets around me. I yearned for the comfort of my own futon, but the futility of such thoughts only forced me to confront the reality of my situation. If only I could wake up from this strange nightmare. If only it was a nightmare. But I couldn't. Those men from the night before must have taken me with them to the headquarters of the Shinsengumi. What will happen to me now? I inhaled deeply, lying down to await my fate. It was at that moment that the door slid open, and a kind-looking man stepped through.
Ah, I see you finally awoken. This is no way to treat a guest of ours. Please wait. I'll loosen the ropes, all right?
His smile quirked as he removed my ropes. My wrists, however, were left bound. And you are?
Of course, how improper of me. My name is Genzaburo Inoue.
Thank you, Inoue.
Now, if you would follow me. They've been discussing what to do with you since morning. For now, they've decided to hear about what exactly it was you saw last night.
Okay. I nodded curtly and struggled to stand, but my body was sore from being bound up all night. Circulation. Inoue treated me with something like courtesy, but it was clear that I was in a lesser position. He must have been able to guess my thoughts, however, because he smiled at me and winked.
I know they seem scary, but they are truly gentlemen. You don't need to worry.
Yeah, I do, because there's still the possibility that they'll kill me. Oh. Even at home, I heard rumors of the vicious Shinsengumi that were unflattering. It was hard to imagine that the people in charge of such an organization were gentlemen.
The youngest man, Todo, is about your age, or perhaps slightly older. And there are a pair of guys named Nagakura and Harada who are very lively, so you'll be fine.
Don't give me false hope! Despite Inoue's reassurances, it was difficult for me to trust what I was hearing as accurate. Excuse me. Inoue led me to a room and opened the door. I stepped inside and found myself surrounded by the leaders of the Shinsengumi. Their eyes dug into me like sharp knives. I stared before me and then gulped nervously.
Good morning. Have you slept well?
Well, it wasn't particularly comfortable.
Is that so? Because when I went to have a look at you earlier, you didn't even budge, no matter what I poked.
What exactly did you poke?
You were knocked out cold, and you looked snug and cozy in your sleep.
What?
He's only teasing you. Soji didn't go anywhere near your room.
Quiet, silent, I stared at Okita. With his grin still spread across his face, he glanced over at Saito.
I just wanted to see you squirm a little. Not very nice of you, Hajime, calling me out like that.
Spoiling his fun. I don't think Saito did anything wrong. You, on the other hand.
Shut it. You sound like a bunch of kids.
Hijikata's voice broke no further insubordination. Okita shrugged and fell silent, but the smile lingered through his bright eyes. So, Hijikata, this is your witness? The man who spoke was... well, he looked more like a boy than a man. Maybe this is the youthful Shinsengumi captain that Inoue was describing to me. I'd imagined the leaders of the Shinsengumi to be older, maybe even middle-aged men, but this is an otome game and they're all beautiful. Their faces were still blessed with youth. In fact, one might even confuse them at first glance for a gang of bohemian thugs. He's a real stick, huh? Just a kid. Like you're one to talk.
You're calling him a kid, Heisuke? That's rich. Right you are. To anybody else. I'll bet you two look like a sad pair of scrawny little brats. I'm the only one who gets to call him out on being scrawny punks, cause I'm a mature adult and all.
Yeah, mature adult, Nagakura, sure.
Mature adult? Anything that comes out of your mouth is basically nonsense, Shinpachi.
Two nearby men replied to Todo, with very mocking but light-hearted tones. I somewhat recalled Inoue's description of the two energetic members. His mention of them was brief, but seeing them in person was an eye-opening experience. He said the short-haired one was Nagakura, and the other with longer hair was Harada. Leave off, you grumpy old bastards.
The hell I will, boy. You think you can get away with talking to us like that? Besides, I'm hardly mature enough to be called old. Shinpachi may be, but not me. You son of a bitch. I thought we were friends.
Come on, Shin. Let an adult get so worked up over something like that? Their back and forth rapport seemed developed into a rhythm from years of friendship, which predated my arrival and made me foreign here. I sensed something apart from curiosity toward me, though, like a feeling of animosity. Despite their cheerful levity, they had not forgiven my presence among them. Suddenly, I wanted very much to go home. I wanted to leave this place and never return. My chest tightened, and I stared down, hoping to wake up in bed with all this only a memory. Fat chance of that, and the game wouldn't be very interesting if that were the case. But we're going to cut this right here because I think I have enough material for one. Well, this is kind of difficult to tell because of stuff that was going on over here while I was recording. So we'll meet some more people and find out more about Chizuru's fate in the next video. Hope to see you there or in some of my other videos. And I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye everybody.